Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Bo Chen.
I'm Nimicon.
I'm Ven Chan.
In this class, I'll read all of you a part of A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Third, Golden Thread.
Yes.
L.
A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Third, Golden Thread. Charles Dickens. Tower 9. The Game Mate Sick 3. I shall be there, but only as one of the crowd. My spy will find a place for me. Wiste. Rory did so, and they went downstairs and out in the streets. A few minutes brought them to Mr. Laurie's destination. Carton left him there, but lingered at a little distance, and turned back to the gate again when it was shut, and touched it. He had heard of her going to the prison every day. She came out here, he said, looking about him. Turn this way. Must have trod on these stones often. It was 10 o'clock at night when he stood before the prison of La Force, where she had stood hundreds of times. A little woodsawyer, having closed his shop, was smoking his pipe at his shop door. Good night, citizen, said Sidney Garting, puzzing and going by. For the man eyed him inquisitively. You mean the guillotine? Not ill. 63 today. We shall mount 100 soon. Samson and his men complain sometimes of being exhausted. Ah. He is so droll. That Samson. Joe. Always. Every day. What a barber. Go and see him when he has a good batch. Figure this to yourself, citizen. He shaved the 63 today, in less than 2 pipes. Less than 2 pipes. As the grinning little man held out the pipe he was smoking, to explain how he timed the executioner, Carton was so sensible of a rising desire to strike the life out of him that he turned away. Yes, said Carton, pausing again, and answering over his shoulder. Oh, a perfect Frenchman. But go and see that Joe dog. The little man persisted, calling after him. Sidney had not gone far out of sight when he stopped in the middle of the street under a glimmering lamp and wrote with his pencil on a scrap of paper. Anne, traversing with the decided step of one who remembered the way well. Several dark and dirty streets, much dirtier than usual. For the best public thoroughfares remained uncleansed in those times of terror stopped at a chemist shop, which the owner was closing with his own hands. A small, dead, crooked shop, kept in a tortuous, uphill thoroughfare, by a small, dead, crooked man, giving this citizen to good night. As he confronted him at his counter, he laid the scrap of paper before him. Phew, the chemist whistled softly as he read it. Aye. You will be careful to keep them separate. Citizen? Certain small packets were made and given to him. He put them, one by one, in the breast of his inner coat, counted out the money for them, and deliberately left the shop. There is nothing more to do, said he, glancing upward at the moon. Until tomorrow. It was not a reckless manner. The manner in which he said these words aloud under the fast-sailing clouds. Nor was it more expressive of negligence than defiance. It was the settled manner of a tired man, who had wandered and struggled and got lost, but who at length struck into his road and saw its end. Long ago, when he had been famous among his earliest competitors as a youth of great promise, he had followed his father to the grave. His mother had died years before. These solemn words, which had been read at his father's grave, rose in his mind as he went down the dark streets, among the heavy shadows, with the moon and the clouds sailing on high above him. In a city dominated by the axe, alone at night, with natural sorrow rising in him for the 63 who had been that day put to death, and for tomorrow's victims then awaiting their doom in the prisons, and still of tomorrows and tomorrows. The chain of association that brought the words home, like a rusty old ship's anchor from the deep, might have been easily found. He did not seek it, but repeated them and went on, with a solemn interest in the lighted windows where the people were going to rest, forgetful for a few calm hours of the horrors surrounding them. In the towers of the churches, where no prayers were said, for the popular revulsion had even travelled that length of self-destruction from years of priestly impostors, plunderers, and profligates. In the distant burial places, reserved, as they rode upon the gates, for eternal sleep, in the abounding gales, and in the streets along which the 60s rolled to a death which had become so common and material that no sorrowful story of a haunting spirit ever arose among the people out of all the working of the guillotine. with a solemn interest in the whole life and death of the city settling down to its short nightly pause in fury. Sydney Carton crossed the Seine again for the lighter streets. Few coaches were abroad, for riders and coaches were liable to be suspected, and gentility hid its head in red light caps, and put on heavy shoes, and trudged. But the theatres were all well filled, and the people poured cheerfully out as he passed, and went chatting home. At one of the theatre doors, there was a little girl with a mother, working for a way across the street through the mud. He carried the child over her, and before the timid arm was loosed from his neck asked her for a kiss. And that the streets were quiet, and the night wore on. The words were in the echoes of his feet, and were in the air, perfectly calm and steady. He sometimes repeated them to himself as he walked. But he heard them always. The night wore out, and as he stood upon the bridge listening to the water as it splashed the river walls of the island of Paris, where the picturesque confusion of houses and cathedrals shone bright in the light of then the day came coldly, looking like a dead face out of the sky, and the night, with the moon and the stars, turned pale and died, and for a little while it seemed as if creation were delivered over to death's dominion. But the glorious sun, Eisen, seemed to strike those words, that burden of the night, straight and warm to his heart in its long bright rays. And looking along them, with reverently shaded eyes, a bridge of light appeared to span there between him and the sun, while the river sparkled under it. The strong tide, so swift, so deep, and certain, was like a congenial friend in the morning stillness. He walked by the stream, far from the houses, and in the light and warmth of the sun fell asleep on the bank. To be continued.